guess what? The things that are keeping you up at night right now, the things that are worrying you, hate to tell you, you're going to blink and the world ain't even going, it's not going to be a blip on the radar. We're here for a short time and then the world's going to forget about us. And that's okay because it's all about His glory and not ours. So glad that you are with us today. All month long, I'm talking about a word. If you've ever bought a home or sold a home or started a business in a facility, they will send out an inspector, and the inspector is looking for one main thing, and that is the word integrity. Does this building have structural integrity? And the definition of that is the ability to hold together under a load without breaking. That's my desire and our prayer for you. That's the season we're in this month, as we are talking about the integrity in our lives in a variety of areas. And today the focus is on time integrity, the most precious gift that we have. What are we doing with it? And I want to introduce you to a couple of concepts today that are exciting to me, and I believe it will be encouraging to you and help you kind of align and structure your life. But there are actually two types of time. The first type that we're most familiar with, the word is chronos, Greek word. It's where we get chronological. This is the time that God has given us to manage. In other words, we following this linear path of time, and to get from here to an hour from now, we got to wait an hour. We are inside this thing that God created called time. He is outside of it. For Him, He is the beginning and the end. He's in our past, present, and future all at the same time. Mind-blowing stuff. But He has given us this gift of a short little window of chronos time here on earth for a purpose. And I just don't want you to forget how valuable and precious it is. The Bible calls us to pray about this. Teach us, oh God, to number our days. Like, may we never lose a sense of how short and brief and fragile life is, that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Because if we think we just going to go on and on, well, we'll live for ourselves. We'll get distracted. But trust me, you are here for a short window. How many over here are willing to say you're 70 or older here today? Show of hands. Be proud of it. Holler at me if you're 70 or older. One. Would you agree, our honorable seniors, would you agree that life is a vapor? Man, we are here, and all of a sudden you blink, and oh my goodness, if you have kids, it's like, oh my goodness, how did they get so big and stinky? It's like it just happens. This stuff happens. So God has given you the gift of chronos, but there is another type of time that I want you to be intimately aware of, and the word is kairos. This is, this is the time that God interacts and controls. This chronos speaks of chronological time or quantity of time. Kairos speaks of quality of time. Now, this is what I want you to have your heart set on, because this is what changes our life. This is what changes eternity. These are the moments that are great. Like you heard Mark talk about his getaway with his bride. Now, I believe they probably had the time of their lives, enjoyed themselves, visited places. But what sticks with them? The Kairos moment. That special moment where God says, okay, I know you got these things, but this moment right here, this is a special moment. This is a moment where God says, I want to do something special. Those are the moments I want you to live for and pursue. But I truly believe the way we manage our chronos unlocks the kairos. That's what I want to give you today. And so it says in James, now listen, you who say, and what the Bible is saying here, don't get caught up thinking that time is endless and, here's what my plans are. Here's my chronos plan. Don't say, listen to those who say today or tomorrow, we'll go to this city, we'll spend a year there, we'll carry on business, we'll make money. Here's my 5-year plan, here's my 10-year. God says, wait a minute. Hold up. Why? You do not even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then it vanishes. We are here just for let me illustrate this quickly to just kind of let it sink in how brief life is. If you don't mind, would everyone, if you're able, would you stand up just for a moment? I'm not going to embarrass you. Just everyone in the room, stand up just for a moment. If you're here today and like you know your parents well, like you know their life story, their occupation, like you could tell me the story of your parents. If that's true of you, stay standing. If not, you can go ahead and be seated, all right? Now, your grandparents, if you know them and their story and the life they lived, if you know it well, stay standing. If not, you can be seated. Starting to drop a little bit, all right? Let's go great-grandparents. If you know your great-grandparents well and their story, stay safe. If not, you can be seated. Oh, my goodness, we are dropping like flies. Great-great-grandparents, and everybody can be seated. How much time did we just cover? 100 years? Maybe 150. We'll be generous. Guess what? The things that are keeping you up at night right now, the things that are worrying you, hate to tell you, you're going to blink and the world ain't even going, it's not going to be a blip on the radar. Like all of our Chronos worries, the waves will come and we're going to be washed over. In Ecclesiastes, it says the wise man and the foolish man will both be forgotten. Can we just let that sink in to know, you know what? We're here for a short time, and then the world's going to forget about us. And that's okay because it's all about His glory and not ours. And so it should inspire us for the very short window we have to make it count by living. The Bible says, what is seen is temporary. What is unseen is eternal. May we live for the things that are unseen and not get caught up on all the Chronos worries, but live for the Kairos moments. Now, what does that look like? I believe that Chronos represents earthly time and Kairos represents heavenly moments. Like these are the moments that God anoints and breaks in what we're doing. But I truly believe that if He can trust us with our Chronos, He will give us more of these. I want you to have integrity in what you do with the time you have. And I'm going to keep this very short because I truly want you to leave here and talk about this when you leave. What adjustments do we need to make to our daily lives? So here's how I believe you can make incredible strides, incredible improvements on how you manage your Chronos time with integrity. Number one, get a stranglehold on your priorities. A lot of people, when I say, what are your priorities in life, don't even have an answer. A lot more people, they have an answer, but then when you look at their life, it doesn't match. Like you can tell me what your priorities are, but then show me your calendar and your checkbook, and I'll know what your true priorities are. Like your time and money always line up with your real priorities. So here's what it looks like. At our house, you can't say, I don't have time for that, because 99% of the time, that's a lie. You have time for virtually anything, but not everything. And you're choosing some things over another. The only time I don't have time for that actually applies is when chronologically it's impossible. I live about 3 miles from here, so I don't have time to make it to my house in 10 seconds. Now, that's a true statement. I don't have time. But to say I don't have time to, I don't have time to work out. I don't have time to study the Bible. I don't have time to pray. I don't have time to visit my family. I don't have time for my kids' ball game. Lie, 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 lie. No, I'm choosing other things. Now, I'm not saying what you're choosing is wrong. I'm just saying be honest with yourself. You do have time. You just don't have time for everything. We're given the same amount of time. I think we can all agree that Jesus had more responsibility than any of us. Amen. He had the weight of the world on His shoulders, and He took time for what was important. Now, I want you to really have this conversation. What are our priorities, and how do we need to realign our lives so that the life we're living actually reflects the priorities God has given us? Next, two more. One, I want you to insert margin in your life. I'm bad at this. I'm preaching to myself right now. I'm getting better at it. Many years ago, about 15 years ago, I was near ministry burnout. I was horribly out of shape. I was doing 2 or 3 all-nighters every single week because the needs of ministry never run out. You people who just stay messed up all the time, like it's crazy. No, that's just, we live in a broken world, and the needs of ministry never run out. And so I was constantly, I'll just tell you the way my mind works. There's not an hour of my day that doesn't go by that I don't think about one of you or more. Like I'm constantly, like like today, I'm seeing people that this week I was thinking of. And in my mind, I was like, oh, I want to spend time with that person. Oh, I want to say thank you to that person. Oh, I want to encourage that person. Oh, I want to visit that person. Oh, I want to have them over for dinner. It's like I'm just constant. It never ends for me. And it drives me crazy because I just never, I can't do it all. And so I do want you to know I love you. I care about you. I think about you. I'll stop and pray for you. But the needs are too many. And so what happens is, in our culture, we don't have margin. Now, what does this mean? I believe this applies financially and with our time. There's a passage in Proverbs that says, the wise, they have wealth and luxury, but fools spend whatever they get. This is a financial principle. I believe it's a time principle, which means the wise person always has a little cushion, a little extra. I'm not going to ask you, but how many of you know the pain? I guess I am asking you. How many of you know the pain of living paycheck to paycheck? The stress, the anxiety. Anybody ever been there? Can I get a witness? Like, my goodness. Can I plead with you? Downsize your life to whatever degree you have to so that you have margin in your financial life. Please, please. I believe some of you want to be givers, but you're broke and you can't. Like you have no margin. Well, apply that to your time. The wise man always has a cushion. If you're like me, I'm guilty of this. I'm always seem to be in a hurry, in a rush, running a couple minutes behind, and what happens when you're running behind for an appointment and you get out in traffic and somebody cuts you off? Oh my goodness, the finger of fellowship. But it's like, when you have no margin in your schedule, you live high blood pressure, stressed out, on edge. Here's what I want to ask you to just try it. Just experiment this week. If that's you, pick an appointment this week and just commit to arriving 15 minutes early. Just try it. See what happens. Watch what it does to your emotional and spiritual. Like if you're running behind and somebody cuts you off, it's like, be 15 minutes early and watch what happens. They cut you off. It's like zippity-doo. No, go right ahead. Zippity. I got time. It's amazing the difference adding some margin into your life, the impact it will have. Problems that we just say, so we spend a little more than we make, and we plan to do a little more than the clock will allow. And that's not the life that God has. I want you all to make it the long haul. I want you to be with us. I don't want you to live stressed. It takes. This is a great conversation to have. If you have no margin, it'll mess. You'll find yourself in some predicaments. I had sort of a funny, embarrassing moment this week. How many of you know what this car part is? Like I had no idea what it is, but I have a car that needs some work, and it needs one of these. And actually what it is, if you're driving and you're looking at your dashboard, that's what that is. It's the speedometer. I didn't know that was the part I needed, but that's what I needed. And so I called my good friend Jason Cox at CTV, Cox Truck and Van. I was like, hey man, I really need this part. Any chance y'all might have it in your pick and pull lot? He said, hey, give me a couple days. Let me check on it and see if we have one. Well, I'm so busy thinking about a billion other things, I forget about our conversation. Now, I didn't know in the automotive world that a speedometer, they call it a speedo. It's just short. They just shorten it up, and they said that's what you need. Well, 2 days goes by. Out of the blue, I get a text from Jason Cox saying, hey, I'd like to send you a picture of my speedo. I am rebuking, like, in the name of Jesus, just come out of him. No, Jason. You need margin in your life. You just don't. Thank you for the speedo, Jason. Final thing, practice true renewal. And I say true renewal because here's what too many of us do. We look for things that will medicate and distract us from life's worries and pain, but not bring true renewal. And that comes in the form of entertainment, Facebook, TV, movies. I'm not calling those things from the devil, although there are aspects of them that are not good. But they don't bring renewal to your spirit and heart. So at the end of a tough day, it's so easy. Just click on something. I want to stop thinking about life. I just want to check out. Well, that's fine, but that's treating it with a drug, and your drug may be a drug, and it may be TV or entertainment, but it is not renewing your spirit. And so I want to encourage you to really think through. The world's not going to give you this. This has to become a spiritual discipline where you know what brings renewal and you make it a priority in your life. Jesus himself, he carried the weight of the universe on his shoulders, and yet he frequently withdrew to a quiet, solitary place to pray. Frequently. Here's a man that I believe it's safe to say carried more weight on his shoulders than any of us and all of us put together ever will, and yet he knew how important it was to withdraw and retreat, and we need it too. Now, how do we live a life of priority with margin and renewal? Well, it comes down to one word, and this is a word some of you have never heard of before. I want to teach it to you today. I want to help you know how to pronounce it. I need you to write it down because you've got to remember this word. It's absolutely critical that you learn this word. If you don't understand this word, it won't happen in your life. Super, super important. I'll teach it to you today. I'll help you rehearse it. It's an old English word. The word is new. Some of you haven't said this word in far too. Let me just kind of let you behind the scenes. The way I'm wired, I have this inner critic that's always like every day I'm like, I'm not the husband I want to be. I'm not the dad I want to be. I'm not the pastor I want to be. I'm not the friend I want to be. Like, I immediately see all the areas of my life that I wish I was doing better in, and it never leaves me. I'm just constantly, and I struggle with this. And I used to try to meet all those needs, and I used to try to be all that finally, God, I was just so stressed out. God, I can't do it. And God just said, Brad, if you could, you would be God. And so here's how I enter every day. I realize every single day of my life, I'm going to disappoint somebody. I'm going to get a request from one of you that I have to say no to. I'm going to get an invitation I have to turn down. My kids might need something that I can't provide. I can't be all that I need to be for my bride. I can't be all that I need to be for Heritage Church. Every day I'm going to need the grace of God. And so every day I say, God, I need your grace today because I'm not going to be all that I want to be. And you know what that's done to me? It's made me a much more graceful person with the people in my life because I'm in touch with how badly I need his grace and mercy. And so if you hurt me, if you disappoint me, you let me down, I can tell you, we're cool because I let down a whole lot of people every day of my life. But I have learned if I'm going to have margin, if I'm going to live a focused life, if I'm going to have times of renewal, this is a word I have to be very, very comfortable with. And I have to be okay knowing that I'm going to let people down. I want you to take this and talk about this at home today and just allow God to evaluate the life that you're living and what needs to be realigned. Because what I want you to have more of these moments. Now, what does that look like? The Bible word for the Spirit of God, one of the words is ruach. It actually means a wind or the breath of God. It is God. His Spirit just blows life. And it is the wind in our sails. It is God. Just say, my son, my daughter, just, I just want to help you. I want to breathe on you. However, life by the Spirit looks differently than life by the clock. Here's what Jesus says. In John chapter 3, it says, the wind blows wherever it pleases. God really doesn't care about your to-do list or your schedule. He is going to do what He pleases. You hear it sound, but you cannot tell where it comes from or where it is going. So it is with everyone born of the Spirit. Here's how I like to think of it. Chronos is earthly time. Kairos is heaven time. I want more of this, and I believe if we would be faithful with this, God will open the door for this much more often. These are the moments that change our life. I believe God, this is a word for us today, and I'm ending with this. Whoever can be trusted with very little can also be trusted with much. Whoever is dishonest with little will also be dishonest with much. Now get this, so if you have not been trustworthy in handling worldly wealth, substitute that for time. Who will trust you with true riches, heavenly time? I believe if God sees that we are good stewards, we have integrity with our chronos time, He says that is a heart that is ready for the kairos moments. I'll just give you a little story what happened to me and my son a few weeks ago. I'm a big scheduler. I'm a strategic. I'm a plan. Like on Sunday morning, we say it frequently. We're going to be 100% prepared and 100% flexible. I'm like, this is our offering to God. Don't you show up unprepared. We're going to give our very best. But in any moment, we recognize the Spirit of God may decide to blow in a different direction, and we're going to flow with that. And so in life, I believe God is looking for faithful stewards. Are you using the time He's given you in a way that glorifies Him? And if so, He is going to give you the gift of some kairos moments. A few weeks ago, I had a friend who was in the hospital, flown to the hospital in Atlanta, and really not expected to live. I'll just tell you, it was a miracle that he pulled through, and God is healing him. But in the moment, it looked like he probably wouldn't make it through the night. At the same time, some dear friends of ours, David and Jane Brown, Jane lost her not identical, it'd be weird to have an identical twin brother. It was her twin brother. He passed away, and their service was going to be that Saturday, same day. And so I got to meet her brother, had a wonderful time with him. And it was a Friday night, and I've just been wanting more time with my son. My oldest son, Braden, 19, he's doing college work, and I love time with him. So me and my multitasking, planning, strategic mind, I'm like, here's what we're going to do. I said, son, how would you like to drive with me to Atlanta? We'll go visit our friend in the hospital. We'll get to be there for Jane's brother's service, and then we'll plan something fun. We'll just get time together. He was like, I'm in. We're up for it. So I'm like, I'm anticipating a meaningful experience together. So we hit the road, kind of running through some rain a little bit. We get an hour away from Atlanta, and every light on the dashboard lights up, and the car just we make it into this parking lot in a small town. I'm calling all my mechanic friends like, hey, what do I do? Here's what the lights say. Here's what the manual says. The verdict was your car is dead. It's not going anywhere. It's Friday night. Now, can anybody relate to this moment that I'm not a happy camper in this? I'm like, God, I was trying to do ministry. I'm trying to have fun with my son. I'm trying to be good, God. I had a plan. So we're in this little small town, and now we've got to find a place to stay because the tow truck driver is going to be there the next morning to load up our vehicle and cart us back down to Moultrie, Georgia. So we're in the middle. It's getting late. It's after 10 o'clock at night. We're like, oh my God, it's freezing cold. We didn't plan on a midnight stroll in the middle of nowhere. So we're freezing. We're hungry, and like, son, we just got to find a place to eat. And we just got to figure things out. We got to find a place to stay. And so we get out, we start walking. Well, he sees a Wendy's down the road. And so he's like, hey, let's go to Wendy's. So we're walking in the middle of the night in the freezing cold rain. We're shivering. And I'm like, God, really could have used your help here. We get to Wendy's. We sit down. We start eating. Don't know what we're doing. And I hear this voice behind me, this young 20-something little girl. And I hear her saying to one of the employees, well, this is it. My parents didn't want me. The only person I've had in my life is my grandma, and she's going to die any day now. I'm going to kill myself tonight. Kairos moment. See, God, I knew you were up to something all this time. So that night we got to talk with this girl, and we just got to lay hands and pray on this girl with tears running down her cheeks. I said, God, the wind blows where it wants. You're in control, God, not me. I'm good with it. So we walk out of there, and I feel like, okay, God, I hear you, I'm with you, whatever you want. It's like, son, now all we got to do, we book a room. Went online, booked a room. It's several miles away. No problem, son. We'll call a Lyft. We'll call an Uber. Apparently, those don't exist in small town America. Son, we are now in trouble again. I'm back to God. What has happened to why did not? I ended up finding I hadn't looked at Yellow Pages in 15 years, y'all. I'm in the Yellow Pages, like taxi service. Like, what in the world? I came across an ad, this elderly gentleman he's the local taxi guy. This is what he does. He's like, call me 24 hours a day. He's got his picture. I'm freaked out. Like this, I call this guy, hello, NMS. Could really use a ride. I'll be there. I'm like, he's like, it's going to cost you. I'll pay whatever it takes. He shows up, and for the next 20 minutes, we're sitting in the car with this gentleman. We get to talking, and I just said, he just asked, I said, well, I'm a pastor serving in ministry. This was our plans, and it got quiet. He said, I used to be in ministry. He said, but I got hurt real bad. And for the next 20 minutes, we just got to talk about the Lord and the good, the bad, and the ugly of ministry, and just encourage him. And when it was over, he turned and he just said, God bless you, young man. Thank you. Kairos. The wind is blowing in your life. May you not be too stressed, too busy, too marginless to miss it. Let's just pause and have a Kairos moment together. Father, we love you. Nothing more important than you, God. Teach us to number our days, God. May we have a heart of wisdom. Father, I pray for a spiritual realignment to fall in this room today. May we go home and just think seriously and earnestly about the life we're living, and does it line up with the life you've called us to. I pray for a shift in priorities. I pray for more margin to just be open and sensitive to the move of your Holy Spirit in our life. And I pray we would fall in love with withdrawing to those places where we encounter you and we worship you, we talk to you. I pray you give us one of those moments now, God.